Can I bid you all welcome to this second skin exhibition that's been organised by the South Tipperary Arts Centre. It's our Crafts Council of Ireland exhibition, and I have the curator, Louise Allen, beside me here, who is going to open the exhibition in a moment or two. But just before she does that, I'd like to thank a number of people for their work in getting it to this point. I want to thank in particular Evelyn McNamara, who's the project manager for the second skin exhibition, and the Office of Public Works, who have allowed us to use this terrific venue for the next couple of months. This exhibition will be around until the beginning of December, so everybody has a chance to take their time and look at the absolutely exquisite work that we see in front of us. I want to thank in particular on the OPW side, Jackie McHale and Frank Charley, who went, I suppose, beyond the line of duty to facilitate us at relatively short notice. As you know, the reason that we're using this venue, or you may not know, is that the premises that South Tipperary Arts Centre has been working from for a number of years now is undergoing renovations. And so our exhibition space is no longer available to us and won't be until early spring. So apart from the OPW, I want to thank also the Tipperary County Council, who continue to support the South Tipperary Arts Centre, particularly Melanie Scott, who's the Arts Officer, and I hope to see much more of them around here over the next while. The best part of this, however, is to hear about the exhibition itself and the exhibitors. I think this is a very unique exhibition. It's travelled extensively already. So I'm going to ask Louise if she would be good enough to introduce the exhibition and to open it.
Thank you very much, Sean. First of all, just to continue on the vein of thank you all for coming this evening. It's always preferable to talk to an audience, and it's lovely to see so many people here tonight. I'm delighted that this exhibition is here in South Tipperary. Is it the official art centre or is it the temporary art centre? It's a beautiful exhibition space, whichever it is, and I think you should really try and persuade all of the OPW members to hang on to this as a venue. And also just to say thank you very much to Enoch and her team here as well, because I know Evelyn McNamara, this exhibition probably wouldn't exist without all of the invaluable project management work that Evelyn's put into it as well. So that's the thank yous done for now. Just in terms of the exhibition, I suppose the impetus or the inspiration for this, there were a couple of triggers for me. My mother was in the fashion industry for many years, and I remember as a child being dragged up and down South William Street and Drury Street with bags of clothes. She went from retailer to retailer, and so I suppose that was always in my psyche and in my memory and background. And a number of years ago I was, I think, sitting one Sunday and I was reading a Sunday Times article about a company called Interdix. And Interdix are like I suppose a brand, or a house for a number of brands, including things like Bershka, Stradivarius and Zara, and all of those chains that you'd be familiar with. And I think the article at the time said that they were producing something like 500 million garments of clothing per year. And that's just, you know, I suppose one company, very, very sizable, obviously, with a huge number of brands. And it really just made me start to think about the sustainability of the fashion industry globally. And it made me think as well, because I suppose with my background and my mother, I remember like the cottage industry that used to exist in Ireland and the very vibrant, I suppose, history of fashion that I certainly grew up with. And I really wanted to raise awareness, one, about some of the local challenges and in terms of the choices that we make around how we dress and how we clothe ourselves. But also just to see if there was any way that this exhibition could act as a trigger to bring some level of production and manufacturing back to Ireland. And obviously we will never compete with those kind of global brands where they're producing in other countries at much more, I suppose, lower price where we can't compete on cost. but certainly we can start to re-educate ourselves and we can start to make informed choices. And I talked to Eve just a few minutes ago before the exhibition started. And it's not to say that you can't walk into a Zara or a Penny's or any of those stores. We do, I mean, that's actually part of our background and part of the way that we consume. But we can become much better and much more aware of what the impact of that is, and make some choices to buy maybe one piece that's made and produced locally in Ireland, and to work it like that. So I suppose the exhibition is not asking everyone to change all of their habits immediately, but it's really about raising awareness and being conscious. And an interesting fact, because there was a lot of research that went into developing the content for the exhibition, and actually it opened pretty much a year ago in the National Craft Gallery in Kilkenny. One of the facts that we uncovered was that the whole concept of manufacturing originated and started in Limerick, would you believe. A man called William Tate was the first person ever to take the job of a tailor and the various component parts and to train people in individual jobs that would actually make up a complete garment or piece of clothing. And people came from all over the world to look at William Tate's factory in Limerick. And I know that in LIT in Limerick that they are building a fashion incubator, which I think is hugely significant and important. And the course that they have there in LSAD, run by Anne Malin, is a very, very important and very successful course in terms of training our graduates in the fashion industry. And then just to say a few words about Irish fashion designers, because actually many of you will know the names of Simone Rocha, John Rocha, Paul Costello, and various other people who I suppose have built Ireland's brand, but we have a huge number, a huge reputation for fashion internationally, and I suppose I'm delighted to say as well that this exhibition is part of Irish Design 2015, and we've been working very hard with organisations in the UK to provide the kind of supports that our young emerging and graduate fashion designers need. We've been working with the British Council over there and the UK FT, which is the promotes a lot of export in the fashion industry. And we're really looking at how we can put in those supports for our young and emerging fashion designers and actually reclaim them, because a huge number of them leave Ireland and they mostly go to the UK to try and make their name. And we actually want to reclaim the J.W. Andersons of this world, the Natalie Cohen's, the Sonia Lennons, and the various other people, the Daniel Romerells. It's very, very important that we fly that flag, because every time that they go somewhere internationally, they're cultural ambassadors for Ireland. So I think we need to claim them. Just in terms of the exhibition itself, the challenge that I posed to 4 designers was to design and realise and produce either one garment or a range of garments, and they had to be produced in collaboration. Where possible, they had to be produced on the island of Ireland. If they couldn't be produced on the island of Ireland, they could make it, or they could get an element of it made somewhere else, but they had to document why, what was the challenge, what was the barrier, what was the obstacle to making it here. And they also had to give us a cost breakdown, because some of these garments are made with different kinds of processes, different kinds of materials, different kinds of fabrics, and really part of the idea behind this was that we would start to build a database of information as to what the challenges are, and then see if there's any way that the Design and Crafts Council of Ireland and or Irish Design can help to mitigate some of those challenges for our young designers. So just to talk a little bit about the piece here is designed by Sonia Lennon. It's a one-off piece. It was produced in collaboration. Each of the designers had to work with collaboratively with producers in Ireland, and Sonia worked with a company called DMS Knitwear, and they're based in Wicklow. And what's really nice about this story is that DMS Knitwear got funding through Enterprise Ireland about 2 years ago, and they have set up a production facility in Wicklow for really, really fine knitwear. I think they have a couple of Sheema machines, and they're absolutely state-of-the-art. So I suppose that's a good news story in terms of Sonia finding a new producer, finding someone who can do something of very, very high quality and produce it here in Ireland. The interesting things are the challenges with this, where I know that she couldn't find the yarn. So we have a lot of sheep in Ireland. We don't have particular types of yarn, we don't have particular types of dyeing facilities. So again, part of this process and part of this story was to unearth what those challenges were. The beautiful shoulder pads were designed and made by Michael Fay and Andrew Burdock, Woodturner, and it's just again nice to have that combination of elements in the design and realisation of the piece. And then just in terms of the exhibition design, I was talking to Laughlin about it there just a few minutes ago. I suppose I knew when I was curating this exhibition that one of the requirements would be that it had to tour in 2015. So we worked with a company called Russellworks to come up with a system that was flexible and that would have the ability to tour. It had to be lightweight, it had to pack down quite well. So again, there was a lot of consideration and a lot of design that actually went in to the way that the items are displayed. And the idea behind it, the idea behind the layering, is that it might evoke some kind of sense of a designer's studio or a design practice, and evoke that kind of sense of how they design and what they use. So, for example, the backdrop for each of these is the dotted cross paper that people, that fashion designers would use to make patterns, would use for pattern cutting. And then moving on to the piece that is by Joanne Hines. And Joanne is an absolutely incredible woman and a Trojan worker, and she has a very high-profile international career. And Joanne really wanted to work with fishermen out of Ireland. I don't know if you know, and I suppose one of the success, or one of the, I think, incredible stories about Ireland is that up in the north of Ireland we've managed to retain such a thriving knitwear industry. There's a huge cluster of weavers and of producers and of knitters that still exist up in the northwest of Ireland. And I know that the local enterprise office up there recently enough did a survey of those companies to see how they can be supported and expanded and developed. But I think Joanne has a very unique sense of style, and I don't know if anyone's familiar with fishermen out of Ireland. They actually use very, I suppose, muted tones. They do a lot of menswear jumpers and womenswear as well, but they tend to be kind of in fawns and creams and greys and dark blues. So it was a really interesting challenge for Joanne and for fishermen to work on something that is this vibrant. And I suppose the nice thing about these as well is that pretty much all of the ranges here are for sale. So as far as I know, this cape has been stocked in Brown Thomas, and I'm hoping that Joanne will continue to work with fishermen out of Ireland. And she also did a range of brooches, which she used 3D printing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with 3D print technology, but she worked with a designer called 3D Dave to realise the set of brooches, and the idea would be that the brooches complement or work with the various iterations of the cape. And then the work of Natalie B. Coleman. And Natalie is the youngest designer in the exhibition, and she worked with, collaborated with an artist called Caroline Schofield. So Caroline did a series of drawings, and Natalie is a storyteller, really. She's from Clonmel, and she's fascinated by narrative. And the inspiration for this dress, which you saw downstairs actually, that's a new piece that I hadn't seen before, so it's fantastic to walk into the exhibition and see that Natalie is actually developing this range. But this is the first piece that she developed, and it's based on an Enid Blyton story called The Magic Faraway Tree, and the characters in that. So again, she's very, very visual. She works a lot with illustration. And some of the challenges actually for this piece, and also for Jennifer Rockwell's piece, which is the piece at the end there, we don't have any digital print facilities, any commercial digital print facilities to print on fabric in Ireland. And it's something that I firmly believe we can have a solution to. In fact, I met with the man whose name I won't give in case this doesn't come to pass, but he's a commercial printer, and he's actually looking at setting up a facility just outside of Dublin, which would be a huge story for this project, because he's been inspired, I suppose, by the stories and by the number of people who are working and using printed textiles in Ireland. So Natalie actually got the print done in the UK in a place called the Silk Bureau. But one of the things with Natalie was, because she was using silk, because she couldn't produce it, get it printed in Ireland, and because there's minimum quantity orders when you get something printed, the actual cost of this dress when she produced just the one edition was about €3,500. So it's not that now. The prices have come down, but it just shows you some of the challenges that the designers face. And then last but not least, Jennifer Rothwell. And Jennifer collaborated again with actually probably a huge range of people. There's a coach that Jennifer collaborated with McGee, who you probably are familiar with, in Donegal. And Jennifer, I suppose, is passionate about Irish folklore and about telling, I suppose, those stories. And she absolutely loves it, as do I, the Harry Clark windows. And that was the inspiration for this particular piece. Jennifer is very prolific as a designer. She has gone on to design an entire range based around this, and it was actually nice having the two, because although we didn't have a commercial print facility in Ireland, Jennifer worked with the National College of Art and Design in Dublin, and she also worked with the Northwest Regional College to get the fabric printed here. And I suppose Jennifer has always been a huge supporter of producing and making locally. I think actually this dress was probably the most famous piece in the exhibition film, because it was bought, a version of it was bought by Tom Moore's wife and wore it to the Oscars, because Tom Moore is the director of Cartoon Saloon, and they were nominated for Oscar for the Song of the Sea. So it was fantastic again to see that this got a level of international exposure. So I suppose that's a very, very quick overview of the exhibition. As I said, there's a huge amount of information on the website. When we had this exhibition opened in Kilkenny, Eddie Shannon, again, who heads up the council, the Irish Fashion Council, he did an incredible and impassioned speech that is available on the website, and I'd encourage you all to read it. And there's also a lot of statistical information, just in terms of how much we consume, how much waste there is around fashion, and maybe how we can create a better story. I don't know if anyone has any questions. If you have questions, please write that out.
Maybe well, if there were some questions to be asked now, or maybe you might.
I wondered how you selected the four artists. Had you were aware of them before, or had you asked for applications, or how did that?
No, I suppose I had a number of criteria. So, and I was also conscious that I needed kind of a mix, both in terms of age and also in terms of the profile. So there was a long list, and there were a number of people that I tried to get who weren't available. So I suppose there was a few high-profile names who just couldn't commit to the timescale of the project. And I suppose also to say that it was actually in development for quite a long period of time. I think it opened in November of 2014, but I actually think I started the process for this project towards the end of 2012. So it was actually over quite a long period in terms of development. Sonia, I suppose, was selected. She has done a huge amount of work to promote Irish fashion. And she has, everyone would know her from Off the Rails, and she has a certain level of profile. And I suppose if anyone was going to push an agenda, Sonia is the one to be able to do that and do it in a very public way. Joanna was selected because she had probably the international profile that I was looking for, that level of experience. Natalie, I suppose, was the young designer, and I was wearing Natalie because she won over Future Makers Award in 2010. And then Jennifer, always very conscious just about how passionate Jennifer is about making and producing in Ireland, and she's one of the designers who makes every single piece of her garments and range in Ireland, so that was really the rationale.
Okay, well, maybe what we do is if you're here for a few minutes more, people might like to talk to you individually. I'd just like to say thank you very much. I'll just finish by saying that I repeated before, this exhibition will be here until the beginning of December. And to remind you, as an architect myself, I suppose I've really found it difficult to understand why we keep saying that we don't have a visual culture in this country. We're the most powerful visual culture, if only we can choose to access it. And this is just another example, and it's really heartening to see the sheer beauty of things that were produced here. I wouldn't know anything about the technicalities of them. Just from a visual point of view, they're amazingly powerful pieces. So, tell your friends, thank you for coming this evening, and we look forward to seeing you at other events organised by the South Tipperary Arts Centre in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.